morning. Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. So I work in the Office of Advanced Cyberinfrastructure at the National Science Foundation. This is a division within the Computer and Information Sciences and Engineering Directorate, or SISE. It's a basic computer sciences research directorate at NSF. I've got my colleague, Amy Apon, with me. And in fact, Amy is the lead program director of this program that maybe some of you heard about for the first time yesterday with the CC Star term, wondering what that is. That is our campus cyber infrastructure program. And I've got just a little bit of material here that's really in the context of how we talk about OSPool and OSDF in the program and in the solicitation. So this program started back in 2012. It was frankly, I think, a real departure for OAC in the type of program, what we were going after for funding. It was originally a campus networking program only. It was all about upgrading campus connections. It harkened back to a program that maybe one or two of you might recall if you were around then at NSF, going all the way back to the 90s, called the High Performance Network Connections Program. And so we spent the first several years plus in the program, actually it's more than that, probably the first 6 years, funding nothing but infrastructure upgrades on campus networks externally. At the border, you see a diagram that's kind of unreadable there, but that's the Science DMZ architecture that people talk about all the time. And over the years, we expanded it. We expanded it based on community feedback. Some of the proposals that we were starting to see, which were maybe a little less about networking and trying to stuff in a lot of compute and storage in that Science DMZ re-architecture at the border. So we got the message and we expanded it. But it has, over the last, what is it now, 13 years or so, I think we're into year 13 of the program, amassed around 500 awards. I think we're over that. And I would say at least half of them probably over time have been in the networking side. So that's the kind of the origins of the program, and it expanded. And what it looks like today is kind of a multi-target opportunity for campus cyber infrastructure that spans networking, computing, storage. There's been a very popular planning category that's now called strategy. I think we've got at least one award in the room on that. And another way this program expanded was it went beyond the campus, like an atomic award to a single campus for a campus compute, campus network upgrade, and now storage to involve multiple under-resourced institutions. And so that's the region kind of subcategory. And so you actually have all sorts of types of proposals now to this program. Amy, I think, did a really nice job in leading kind of a streamlining of the solicitation. It's still a long read because there are so many opportunities in there. And the sizes of the awards have gone up. In fact, just this morning, I had to go back and look at one of the first solicitations over 10 years ago. Some of these award sizes maxed out at $400,000. So maybe we're trying to keep up with inflation. I'm going to key here on just the two areas of relevance, right, to OSPool and OSDF and where they're mentioned. And they're mentioned in Area 2 in computing and Area 4 in data storage. And so these words are right out of the solicitation. We like to be exact with the words when we talk about a program. And both Amy and I have given much longer talks covering all of the areas. So I'm just going to key. I'm not going to go through all of the requirements here. I'll refer you to 24-530. You can Google that. You can read through all the guidance that we have for these areas. There are a lot of requirements, a lot of suggestions. These are challenging proposals to put together if you've never done one. If you've done one, you know that. But here we are with computing, where we have certainly made a lot of awards to large R1s over the years. We will still do that if they can make the case for a need of, in their case, probably augmenting some significant compute resources they already have. But we have words in there now that are very much pointed towards under-resourced institutions, and giving strong preference to those. And I think as a result, over time, we're seeing more interest, more proposals from the R2s, from the under-resourced smaller schools, which I think, as Frank will talk about in his next talk, present their own challenges for them, right, even in going after one of these awards. We talk about, we might reword this, Marone, but we talk about, I think those are words right out of 2430, the OSG Consortium, and an approach here that is incentivizing sharing across campuses of resources. We've got some 23 numbers in there for OSG, and we'll certainly update that in the FY25 solicitation. In there, we also talk about region awards. There's more money there. And here we're looking at a leadership entity, a leadership institution in a state or region proposing on behalf of a number of smaller, under-resourced institutions that, for different reasons, are not coming in with their own proposal. Sometimes don't have the resources to do that. Sometimes may not have the resources to execute on what they're proposing. And so we're seeing this level of sharing now that we're kind of incentivizing, right, with this region type of proposal. And so what we would expect to see in one of these proposals are science-driven needs mapped to what if they're asking us to fund a bunch of GPUs, we would expect to see science applications mapped to those GPUs. We see a lot of that with machine learning types of applications in these proposals and so forth, covering all of those smaller institutions that are identified in the proposal. So just putting one of these proposals together takes a hell of a lot of coordination and teamwork, and probably a hell of a lot of meetings between these institutions. And here is the sharing requirement. So this is unique, as far as I know, to this day at NSF. MRI doesn't have this. Now, by the way, I'll mention MRI for a second. That's a program that's NSF-wide that has quietly been funding campus compute clusters for, I think, pretty much as long as I've been there. I've been there a long time. And so if you're in this space, if you're sitting in here looking for funding opportunities, you should also look at MRI, but you're not going to find this requirement in that solicitation or anything else. And so what we put in there specifically is that you have to share 20% of those cycles. We don't require how exactly you do that, but in reality, there are only a couple of ways to do that with a national shared distributed fabric, and we call out path. And in fact, I think our words are a little stronger in 24.530. I have to go back myself to see how we phrase this in previous solicitations. This has been actually a requirement and a funding opportunity, I think dating back to, I want to say 2019. So this has actually been around now for 5 years or so. Proposals are encouraged to include a letter of collaboration from the selected platform. Now, basically we see two types of proposals. Most will contact Marone's team here, and we'll see a letter from Marone. And the good proposals will lay out how they're exactly attaching to OSPool. There's more than one way to do that. I'll leave it to Marone's team to describe that. We point them in the solicitation to their website. I've got some pictures of their web pages here in a second. But just of note, because Frank's going to be talking about, I think, NRP and OSN following me, we also see proposals identifying NRP as an alternative, and that's fine. The majority of the awards we've made, probably the vast majority, come to path. Yeah, hard to read, but this is a very nice web page that the PATH project has up. I think it's one click off of the URL that we provide in the solicitation. And they lay out a red carpet here to get engaged with them and to have a discussion on how to work with PATH and how to share their resource in working with their proposal. So a lot of nice material in there. I'll skip this. This is kind of repetitive. We put this in our normal 24 5:30 talks. And I'm just going to go through and show you a few web pages. If you have not been on the PATH website, and Todd, I don't know what you're showing in repetition here or not, but I will tell you that we at NSF visit these web pages. Marone knows this because if something's broken, he hears from me on text. We will even go to some of these websites, web pages during our monthly calls. So I've got a few minutes left. Let me just go through this. Yeah, they give some nice summary numbers. They have a list of contributing institutions. We can track this. Hard to read. These are some of the larger institutions. There's a much longer list. So there's some summary numbers here, 67 institutions, 106 million plus jobs run. I think these are 12-month summary numbers. They're a little shy about showing the CPU hours on this one. That's okay. And then here's a drill down. Let me just ask a question. Raise your hand if you've heard of Franklin and Marshall College. Okay, keep your hand up if you know which state that institution is in. Now keep your hand up if you know which town it's in. Okay, it's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. So this is a small liberal arts college. They contribute. And actually, these are some pretty impressive numbers. There are other small institutions on this list, but I think this is what it's all about, right? And so you get this drill down and you can see what they're contributing. They can see what they're contributing to in terms of projects and even institutions, some of these very large institutions. So just some fantastic stuff. All right, I'm kind of running out of time already. This is another web page you can go to off of the OSPool material. We at NSF kind of do like these pie charts. My guess is they did it for us. This is kind of what we do in Exceed Land. So pretty charts that show all sorts of sciences being supported. It's important. Okay, so in computing, we made these awards in the last solicitation. We're now in between due dates for 24, and we're actively paneling and reviewing proposals into the first deadline in 24. So I'm not going to talk about what we got in or what we're going to award in the current one. This is 23526. This is probably half of what's currently, roughly half of what we have as current active awards, both in campus and regional. I'll just point out one here. Let's see if it's on here. Is it Yes, Claflin University is on here. This is a great example. It's this HBCU in South Carolina. They're not hosting their cluster. They're in partnership with Clemson. So they got this award, but that is going to be hosted and run by Clemson. And you see a different set of institutions there. So we've got some nice diversity. Gotcha. Okay, so here is one example out of UTEP. This is, I think, GDX A100 based GPUs. We see a lot of proposals that are largely ML based. One of the larger HSIs in the country. They're going to be joining OSG. Marone, you should hear from them in the months ahead. Very quickly on data storage. The same kind of number, $700,000 for a data storage platform. New this year that Amy introduced was the regional area. We have not had that before. So we've got no regional storage awards going into 24. We should see some coming out of 24. Here we point to OSDF. There's another alternative that we've seen in the short couple of years we've had this opportunity, and that's OSN. Frank will talk about OSN. And here is the data storage awards from last year. That's the majority of the 18 that are currently active. We've got some folks from FIU in the room, so I decided I would show one of their awards. They've had multiple awards in CC Star over the years, proving that an institution can come back and hit different targets over time. I think this is a 5 petabyte data store. I think it's Lustre based. They're using Dataverse. And while it's largely geared towards the environmental sciences, it is multidisciplinary and campus-wide at FIU. Last slide. It's almost guaranteed we'll issue another solicitation. I mean, we can never promise those things with the fiscal year uncertainties. We are undecided right now on 1 or 2 deadlines. The last couple of years, we've had multiple deadlines. That's a lot more work for us, but I think it does pay off. We'll see. Computing and storage areas remain 2 of the more popular areas in the program. It's hard to imagine us not continuing these areas, given the response that we get. And we're going to remain committed to campus-level resource sharing. As always, we welcome feedback from the community. We get that in all sorts of forms, including events like this. So thanks for your time.